As you can see, your butternut squash may come in many sizes. That is okay. We can process them all in the same way. First part of your recipe requires you to steam the butternut squash, and you must pierce it with a paring knife before you put it in the steamer. Be sure to make shallow, not deep piercings. When your butternut squash has cooled, you're going to trim the top and bottom ends, being careful not to over trim so that we don't reduce the yield of our product. Next, we'll cut the butternut squash into pieces that are about 2 inches wide. And if you're measuring with your fingers, that's about 3 finger widths. Next, we're going to cut the rind off the butternut squash. Keep your workstation organized and your cutting mat clean by having a pan or a bowl that you can put trimmings into. To trim the rind off of the butternut squash, flip the pieces of squash so that they are laying on their flat sides. Take your knife and cut away sections of the rind, turning the piece of butternut squash as you go. Be sure not to cut away too much of the rind, as this will also reduce your yield. One tip here is that I find that if you have the wider part of the squash at the top and the narrower part at the bottom, it's an easier angle to cut at. Cutting down at a slightly inward angle is more comfortable than cutting down at an outward angle. When it's time to cut the bulbous piece of the squash that contains the seeds, you can go ahead and cut that in half, as shown here. So you're going to have a half crescent shape, scoop out the seeds, and then proceed to trim the rind off of these pieces as you did the solid pieces. Let's look at the progression of our knife cuts. On the left, you have a 2-inch solid piece of butternut squash, which gets halved to be a 1-inch wide piece, which then gets flipped on its side to cut into 1-inch batons. Those batons then get diced into 1-inch by 1-inch pieces, and that's the goal size here, 1 inch by 1 inch. That size will work best with the cook time in the recipe. Cutting the butternut squash is the hard part. Once it's all cut, you can pan it up, season it, and follow the rest of the recipe as instructed.